folks, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Sowing Comfort. I thought today, being the 8th of June, it's the anniversary of the tragic loss of one of my great culinary heroes, and I'm sure culinary heroes to a lot of people out there, Anthony Bourdain, that it would be a good day to start talking about mental health and about why I decided to start this channel in the first place. First of all, why food? Why talk about, why spend so much time thinking about food? And for me, it stems from just such a basic thing. It's one of three things that we need to survive. We need air, we need water, and we need sustenance. And at about 38 years old now, I've probably had somewhere in the region of 40,000 meals in my life, and that's more than anything else you could ever even begin to imagine doing or trying. And I think that is such a key thing that people overlook. They devalue the necessity, the importance of food in our lives, and they see it purely as a source of fuel, which it is, and it is a very important thing, but it's also a means of everything in our life, from celebrating things to consoling us at times of darkness and disappointment. And it can bring simple pleasures and simple joys to life, really. And that, I think, is why I've always found food a great comfort, and also a real interest, a real way to escape what's happening in the world around me. My depression, my mental illness, and I've been dealing with for, knowingly and unknowingly, probably somewhere in the region of 20 years now, and it's tough. I'm sure a lot of people out there, a lot of people watching this, either are dealing with it or know somebody who is. Unfortunately, we're coming into times now where it's a lot easier for people to speak about what they're struggling with, what they're fighting. But I think it's difficult for people to realise what parts of it are due to their mental health. I know it's something that is always been difficult for me, is to understand what is caused by the problems I have and what is a result of the problems I have. It's a very fine line between the two. So for me personally, I find that the big thing that it does for me is it's immensely energy sapping. It's a relentlessly tiring thing to try and fight, and so it's that added burden. I think that added something that is the difficult thing. That constant having to fight, having to do things, having to push, rather than just being able to just simply be, is draining. And that, I think, is the hardest burden for those who suffer from ill mental health. A really good day is where you manage to distract yourself from all the other things going on in your head long enough to achieve something, to do something. And a bad day, the opposite. You don't manage to distract yourself at all, and nothing works, nothing happens. And because there's a lack of energy, when you do find yourself having energy, very rarely do you put it into use to do things for yourself. And I think that is really it's a huge point of importance. It's a huge point of that people who suffer from depression, suffer from mental health, often have little to no self-worth, and therefore care very little for themselves. And that could be in as simple as getting up, brushing your teeth, having a shower, to actually eating and drinking, feeding yourselves properly at any time. I think that is really important, because that self-care is where the two aspects of my life, the food and the mental health, meet, is where they collide. Our primal ancestors evolved a physiological response to being fed. It was a response that creates within us a chemical sense of relief. Our bodies release chemicals that say, right, we're okay, we can survive a bit longer, we can carry on a bit longer. And that those of us lucky enough in this world to have ready access to plenty of provisions, we have become numb to that response, to really all but the most calorie dense foods, the super high energy drinks that are packed with sugar, or very fatty, things like extremely fatty burgers and cakes and things. The amount of sugar and fat in there just gives us that boost, that endorphin rush almost of relief, when actually it's not a relief to us. This feeling I've had for years about this has actually only been compounded the more and more I've looked at what I eat and what those around me eat. And the physical reaction, I think, is best summed up by something that my father experienced. He's a whole foods, plant-based vegan. He avoids wherever he can things that have been processed, oils and sugars and so on and so forth. And at one point he was given, and to be polite, he took it and ate it. It was vegan, but it was also packed with oil and sugar, a piece of flapjack. And within moments he felt that he was getting a head rush, his heart was pounding, he started feeling physically sick because the overwhelming surge of that calorie dense food into his system was having that physical effect on him. I think the fact that people, for the most part, can eat these things without feeling any physical effect like that is a really worrying sign. Apart from anything else, it's bound to have an effect on your mental health. If you think about the sugar rush from eating something like that many people experience, and then quite the opposite. The term that's become really popular recently is hangry. People who haven't had something to eat and suddenly start to get more wound up. It's now being used to advertise high fat, high sugar products. And while hey, I like a biscuit, I like a bit of cake, I like a bit of chocolate, every so often you can tell by the size of me that I'm not somebody who is massively concerned about the odd time eating those things. I feel the impact of them, but these should be occasional things, not everyday eating. Think about how when you are feeling that hangry, that hunger, that anger, that wound upness, or you're feeling down, eating something, bringing your blood sugar levels back up to a more normal range, does have a brilliantly satisfying and relieving effect on that. So, that's vitally important to us. A few people here may bring up ketosis, the fasting, which starts your body changing the process by which it metabolizes different components of your diet and moves you from metabolizing primarily carbohydrates in order to source energy to primarily fat in order to source energy. My personal view on it is that the body does that as a stress response. That if our ancestors couldn't get a source of food soon enough, they would start to burn their own resources in order to give themselves energy to be able to get the food to replenish those stores. And my own thinking is that while occasional stress is good for us, it puts our body under challenges in which it has to grow and has to exceed, such as going out and exercising, going for a run is all putting your body under stress, and I undoubtedly think that is good for you. At the same time, deliberately putting your body under excessive stress for extended periods of time, I don't think can be a good thing. And from what I understand of the biological effects of it, that as soon as you return to a normal diet, as soon as you move out of the ketosis period, all your body is trying to do is replenish those stores. So all that's going to happen is any excess calories you take in are going to be converted into fat and stored. I think that the Atkins diet has been very cleverly repackaged as a ketosis diet, and lots of people are falling for it again without looking at the longer term impacts on the health. But that's my own personal opinion, and that's completely aside from the content of this, really. So, the cooking side of food, I think, is something that's often overlooked and seen as more of a chore than anything else, especially in this country. But actually, the level of sort of meditative flow, the thing that a lot of the things like Tai Chi and Qigong, martial arts that have been practiced for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, in a lot of the parts of the Eastern world, things like yoga that people are rushing to go and take yoga classes and practice that yoga. I think we can use parts of cooking to do the same, to have the same effect on us mentally as well as physically by thinking about the simple, focused, repetitive motions that we can use and getting into a flow state where we focus in on what we're doing and everything else around us fades away. I think that's really, hugely helpful, especially for me. I find it very, very helpful as a part of therapy for my mental health issues, and I think it's something that could easily be overlooked by a lot of people as part of that. Coupled with that, the fact that the cooking offers so many different stimuli to the senses, it offers to distract and take your attention in so many ways. I think between that and the meditative flow, it really does give a good opportunity to take your mind off the things that are otherwise bothering you. Also, it gives you an opportunity for an activity with a relatively quick payoff. I've recently got into trying to plant some of my own seeds and grow some of my own vegetables and things, and the frustration I find with it is the time lapse between doing that, the payoff for it. At least with making some food, you can have food on the table in seconds almost from something you make, and that payoff is really what we're looking for. That when you're suffering from depression and you're struggling, those little moments of relief, of joy, of those little sparks of light in what is an otherwise dark world are really important. And I think the fact that cooking can do this quickly for you is a really, really good thing. And it also allows you to show that self-care, to do something that is for yourself, make choices that are for you, do things that you want to do, make things that you want to eat, season them, create them in the way that you want to eat them, and it allows you to be self-indulgent without it being a huge expense. Taking a baked potato and taking the time to actually bake it, put some salt and a little olive oil on the outside of it, bake it slowly so you get that lovely crisp skin and fluffy interior. All those things make such a big difference to the end product. The very small things, and at the end of the day, it still only cost you a potato, a little bit of oil, and a little bit of salt. It's a very minor thing, but actually taking the time over it and the process of doing it, the anticipation of it, improves the quality of the end product so much that I think it really, that's where the self-indulgence starts to come in. And when I cook a meal for my family, when we sit down at the table and share a meal, I can produce for much less money what we would otherwise spend a lot of money if we were to go out and eat, or if we were to get the equivalent in ready meals or takeaways. And I think that allows you to do more. When I make a curry at home, I don't just make a curry and rice. I make a curry and rice and a side dish and a pickle and 3 or 4 things to put on the table with the curry and rice. And it makes the whole thing seem much more luxurious when actually the additional cost is almost negligible. And I think that aspect of looking after yourself and being a bit selfish, being a bit self-indulgent with cooking is a really great opportunity to do that. Without it necessarily being added unhealthiness. You don't have to add butter and cream and bacon to make it more indulgent. Not all the time, anyway. If that's what you want to do occasionally, then go for it. But I think really the crux of the matter for me is allowing yourself to be carried away, allowing your mind to be carried away to somewhere else while you get on with what's going on. If you are suffering from any sort of mental health issues, please go and get some help. I'm going to put some links up in the top. Have a look at those. Follow them through. They'll tell you, certainly for here in the UK, what the best mental health charities, the things that people you can get in touch with, people you can talk to are. But talk to your GP, talk to your family. If you don't have that family support network around you, please, talk to friends, talk to anyone. Talking helps. It's amazing how much it helps. And get some help. I'm not ashamed to say it. I think it's very important that people who are getting help talk about it, because then that encourages others to see how normal it is to need that help. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to see more like this, or you'd like to see any of the recipes and things that I post, please check some of the links in the end screen. And if you could hit the subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Take care of yourself.